invite to come and speak here. It's a great privilege for me to be standing in front of you, sharing some of my very, very personal stories with you. There have been some great speakers today with Graham, Dr. Graham Codrington, and Simon, and Lee, and a few others. And from what you've picked up from them, I mean, it's quite clear that we currently conduct our business and personal ventures in a dynamic, ever-changing, competitive environment. In fact, so much so that we've become used to turbulence. Turbulence is now seen as almost a normal that we operate both our personal and business lives in. So how do we take this information, embed it in our lives, and take it back to our workplace and give it out to our teams, our executive teams, etc., sales teams, whatever it is? And how do we use this to achieve and sustain true success, achieve our goals, and fulfill our purpose here on earth? Well, I've learned that if we can put a process together in place in our lives, we can absolutely achieve that true success and sustain it, which is what I'm sure every single one of us sitting here today want to do with their lives. We want to tell a good story. Harvard Business School recently did a study on successful people. So they studied these people to try and find a common characteristic that would show them that if we did these certain things, we would be able to be successful. And at the end of that study, do you know what their conclusion was? The secret to success remains a secret. Their study showed that it does not matter what socioeconomic background you come from. If you come from the top socioeconomic background, it does not guarantee your success. Getting the best education, going to the best schools, getting the best degrees from the top universities, including Harvard, will not automatically guarantee your success. Having the highest IQ in this room, and I know there are many, will not guarantee your success. They did, however, find amongst 98% of those successful people, those participants, that there was one characteristic, and that characteristic was a significant predictor in that person's ability to succeed. And this characteristic was this one word here. I'm from the Eastern Cape, so I'm going to give it to you in Xhosa first. Nyamazela. Yeah. Fussbait. Grit. The ability to imagine and dream and see something, start yourself on a process to achieve that thing, and then it doesn't matter what the journey throws at you, be able to succeed in that journey and fulfill that dream. Fulfill your purpose here. So as a professional adventurer, I've had the great opportunity to visit some of the world's highest, driest, coldest, wettest, windiest, most beautiful, most terrible parts of this planet. My latest expedition was to a place called Svalbard, up at 80 degrees north. We did a dog sledding expedition. We actually sailed. This is our boat sailing across the Bering Sea. You can see our kennels in front of the boat there. Got to the island. We spent 6 weeks just sailing and doing our dog sledding across this place. And then the boat came back up to pick us up on the other side 6 weeks later, and we had that beautiful sail to look forward to back to Norway with our dogs. In 2008, I rowed across the Atlantic Ocean in a race called the Woodvale Transatlantic Rowing Race. And the race itself is completely, absolutely 100% unsupported and unassisted from the Canary Islands just off the coast of Morocco, across the southern part of the North Atlantic Ocean to Antigua on the other side. 5,500 kilometers of rowing. The race itself, we rowed this boat here, a 7.1 meter ocean rowing boat. We rowed this boat here in shifts of hour and a half on, hour and a half off, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for 50 days and 12 hours. Bill and I won the race. There were 23 boats taking part in the race. We didn't see a soul for that whole time. We endured 4 storms during that row. 2 weeks later, we're back in South Africa. I'm starting to think about my next expedition. Now, you've got to be careful what you think about, because that could become a dream. You really got to be careful what you dream about, because that should become reality. Okay? And so I started thinking that no African had ever rowed any ocean solo before. Funny thought. And after a couple of weeks of thinking of this, I decided, okay, I'm really keen to do this. And so 2 years later, I'm on my new boat, which I named Nyamazela. And how apt that name was going to become, only time would tell. And once again, I rowed this boat here in shifts of 1.5 hours on, 1.5 hours off. Except when I went off shift, there was no billy keeping it going in the right direction. And that boat would be left to the wind and the current and whatever the nature could throw at me. And I did this 24/7. 7 days a week for 76 days of pure isolation. Now they say if you truly want to know yourself, spend 24 hours in complete isolation and then try 76. If you had to say to me, Peter, put all your expeditions together, there have been many, what would be the greatest lesson that you've learned? The greatest lesson that I've learned is that you and I have been incredibly made. And that if we put the right processes genuinely in place in our lives, we can achieve the impossible. And I want to just tell you that 6 weeks after that storm, I rowed into English Harbor. This is just on the outskirts of English Harbor. Doing something that I think a lot of people had considered to be impossible. Now, rowing across another ocean hasn't been high on the priority list for a long time. However, there has been one thing that's been bugging me for many years, and that is nobody has ever rowed the Cape to Rio yacht race. And it was just a thought until recently. So myself and this gentleman here, Bram Malhebe, maybe some of you have heard of him, are going to be rowing from Cape Town to Rio de Janeiro in the Cape to Rio yacht race. Obviously, they'll beat us. And we're going to be starting 30 minutes ahead of them. If you watch that start line, you'll see us crossing that line 30 minutes before them. So something very exciting. And the things that I'm going to speak about now quickly, I'm putting in place just for this row, so that the next time you see me, I'll have a significant and successful story to tell you about this row. Speaking of Bram is an incredible person, one of the only 2 people ever to run the entire length of the Great Wall of China. 4,300 kilometers, 98 consecutive marathons. Incredible person. He phones me up and he says, Pete, listen, I have an opportunity to form a 2-man South African team to go down to Antarctica to race to the South Pole in an international race to commemorate the first 2 teams ever to get to the pole. Would you like to be part of that team with me? I said, Bram, are you completely nuts, my friend? Of course I want to be part of that team with you. We have 3 months to go before the start of this race. I'm not good in ice and snow. I said, so long as we can spend the next 3 months preparing ourselves so that when I stand in front of you like this and I come back to my family, I can stand in front of them with all my extremities intact. 3 months goes very quickly. We spent some time in Iceland, top of a glacier called Longical. We then went to France. We did some skiing in France. And the rest of the time, we pulled tires up and down our coastline of South Africa in different parts. Then the 3 months was up, and something quite profound happened to me. I had to get down to Cape Town to get onto this Russian Ilyushin aircraft here. We had 2 beautiful days there, nice and warm, probably -5, -10 degrees, to sort out our last-minute stuff, to get it into the sleds, because once we got up to altitude in the start of the race, we would not see another soul, so we had to make sure. And then we spent 10 days with our competitors just getting to the start line. Getting up to altitude, beautiful, but once you're on that high plateau, that's what it looks like. It is devoid 100% of life, nothing up there. Coldest temperature ever measured was at the Russian Vostok station, -89 degrees centigrade. That's without the wind chill factor. And then the race organizers drew a line in the ice and snow. They pulled out a rifle. They let off a shot. They said, sayonara, chaps. We'll see you at the South Pole. 7 international teams. Least prepared team of those, Bram and me. 3 months training. It's not what we wanted. It's what we had. The next least prepared team had trained for 2 years. A lot of these guys had been to the North Pole because it's their stomping ground. Some of the guys with the big budgets had been down to Antarctica to train just for this race. Day 5 of this race, there are only 3 teams standing. Bram and I were one of those 3 teams. So how do we do it? What is the process that we put in place? The vision that we have for our personal lives and for our business lives, our professions. We need to surround ourselves with visionary people. And it's amazing, I speak all over the world. And it's amazing that in every single audience, there are people sitting that have a vision, or they've put it aside for some reason, or they don't. You're never going to tell a successful and significant story unless this is firmly in place in your lives in all areas. Our vision was to get to the South Pole with all our extremities intact as possible. It wasn't to win the race. As we get older, we lose that ability to dream. I asked my daughter Hannah the other day, I said, Hannah, what do you want to become one day when you grow up? And she looked at me and she said, Dad, I want to become an extreme rock climbing ballerina. So I said, okay, that's fine. I'll continue to teach you how to rock climb, but there is no ways you're getting me up a mountain in a pink tutu. Not with these legs. Albert Schweitzer says the tragedy of life is what dies inside us while we still live. We need to be visionary people. Keep that dream alive inside of us. And it's not just about the dream. It's not just about our imagination and that vision. If we've got a vision that's this big for our businesses, it's going to take a massive journey to get there. So what is that thing? That thing that will allow us to fulfill that journey? There's a word for it. For us, the thing that stimulated the passion in us, and that's the word that I'm going to speak about now, was the will to win. We wanted to win the race. We wanted to break the world record. What does that word passion mean to you? I think it's used uselessly in conferences just like this all over the world. Picture yourself in this boat. It's 3 a.m. in the morning. You're at oars. Your hands are blistered raw almost to the bone. You've got boils on your backside. You've got salt sores everywhere where the sun doesn't shine. You're exhausted. You're lonely. It's raining. You're at oars. I guarantee you, this is day 40, give an example. I guarantee your subconscious mind, and you've all experienced this at some stage, is giving you 3, let's just call it 3 or 4 or 5, perfectly crystal good, clear reasons why when the sun comes up, you should call in the cavalry. Things like, to do another 24 hours like that is physically impossible. 2, I'm not going to see my wife again. 3, I'm not going to hold my daughter's hand when I walk down the aisle when she gets married one day. The only thing that'll allow us to get back in that cabin, rest for another hour and a half, and then get back out again is that word there, that word, passion. It's our drive. It's what is that thing that sparks it, and that thing ultimately will allow you to nyamazela. That common characteristic that is found amongst successful people. It's the passion that we have inside of us. So we need to be passionate people. And I don't use that word lightly about what I do. One of the greatest reasons why people don't even start on the journey is because they're worried about what happens if I fail along that journey. So there's this great fear that is built up in people. So I have this great vision, but I'm so worried that I'm unable to achieve it that I don't even start on that journey. So you're going to be tested. Physically, emotionally, spiritually on your journey. If we want to achieve great things, it's going to require grit. Nyamazela. It's not the mountain we conquer, it's ourselves. And what goes on inside our heads. So preparation is key for this journey. And I'm not talking about preparation that we do every single day, things that we need to be doing to run our lives every single day. I'm talking about the storm, the disruptiveness in our business. Are we prepared for this? So what are we doing in our businesses, in our personal lives, that'll prepare us for the storms that come? And there are certain things that we can do during those storms that will make us go faster and make us better at what we do during the storm. So what can we do every single day that our competitors are not doing, that we can take advantage of? I had 2 mantras written on my boat. 1, this will end, and 2, I am not alone. The storm will end. It's what we do during it that'll determine the outcome. There is something that you can do when you leave here now, doesn't matter what position you're in, that'll make you better and more efficient at what you do. This is not something we should focus on. It must become a culture in our lives, everything that we do. And then my last point, you snooze, you lose. For me, there are 2 types of discipline. External discipline, self-discipline. I phone Helen up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I say, Helen, come, we're going to go for a 10K run, and it's raining, it's horrible, it's cold. She's got me on the phone. She's also training for a half marathon. She says, okay, Pete, let's go. External discipline. Nothing wrong with it. It's a good thing. And often we operate like that. Then there's self-discipline. Picture the scene. 3 a.m. in the morning, you're on this boat. It's raining outside, and you're lonely, you're exhausted, it's terrible, you're wet. Your alarm clock is going, doo-doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo-doo. What do? Snooze. And that's fine. You press snooze button, it's fine. But that is if you don't want to win the race. And then you don't want to break the world record. But if you do, you're going to have to switch that alarm clock off. You're going to have to suck it up here. You're going to have to get back out there, sit back on that buttock, Curl those hands around the oars, bite your bottom lip in pain for a bit, and row for another hour and a half. Why? Because that's your dream and that's your vision that you have. It doesn't matter what the journey throws at you. I want to win the race, and I want to break the world record. Because if you don't, your competitors are going to overtake you. I believe if we can move more away from external discipline and become truly self-disciplined in our lives, not only will we be met with success, but we may even touch on a bit of greatness here and there. We need to put these small things every single day, get them right every single day in our lives. And if we can do that, the big things just fall into place. And that's us getting to the pole. That is the South Pole. That is where Scott and Amundsen arrived 100 years prior to us. But if you were to say to me, Pete, what is the greatest reason why you do what you do? I'd have to say this. I do what I do because that is the vision that I have for my life. And I know that if I'm doing that thing that makes me feel alive, everything else will fall into place. However, when I'm sitting on my sled and I don't know if I'm going to live the next few hours out, or if I'm in my rowing boat and I don't know if I'm going to live that storm out, whatever it is, there have been lots of situations. I don't think of my dream. I think about this one thing. I think about that team of people that I've surrounded myself with in my life. It's a massive part of my journeys. I think about Kim and Hannah, and I think, what would they say to me at that point that'll make me get up and go and come back alive? And that ultimately is the thing that motivates me. Every venture that we embark on in our lives is going to demand clear vision, dynamic strategy, precise planning and preparation, absolute honesty, integrity, uprightness of character, self-discipline. But above all, it's going to take grit, nyamazela, fastbait. And if we never, ever, ever give up on that vision, we put that right process in place, I guarantee you, you will not fail. So thank you very much for your time. It's been a fantastic experience being here today. I wish you luck. Thank you.